recording, and here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. We're going to try to bring a webinar to you each and every Thursday at 1 p.m. Before we get started, I want to make known that today's webinar is brought to you by the Rising Tide Mastermind. The Rising Tide Mastermind is a group of individuals that gets together on a regular basis to not only help each other with our issues, but help each other get further faster in all areas of life. Now, whether it's this group, the Rising Tide Mastermind, that's right for you, or another group, I think it's important that we all need a group of trusted advisors right now. So I urge everybody to find a group where you can get some answers. Our presenter today is Cindy Miller, CEO of Atlanta-based Cindy Miller Communications. Since founding her company in 2009, Cindy and her team of communication experts have helped guide strategic communications for customers ranging from Fortune 500 companies to small businesses. Cindy Miller Communications specializes in crisis communications, proactively protecting your brand in the event of a crisis. When preparing for a potential crisis or responding to one, Cindy Miller Communications team puts their decades of experience into helping businesses navigate through situations with a calm, reasoned, comprehensive strategy. And with that, I'll welcome Cindy Miller. Hey, Cindy.
All right, thank you, Trace. Hello. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us. Trace, I appreciate this opportunity to talk with your mastermind group and all the others who have joined us. Also on this call are members of the Cindy Miller Communications leadership team. And at the end of this presentation, we'll give you the contact information in case this presentation prompts more questions or you want to continue the conversation. We're a strategic communications company, and this presentation focuses on that. How are smart companies communicating strategically during the COVID-19 crisis? What public relations moves will help our companies? What will hurt? And most importantly, what can our own companies do immediately to help guide us to the other side, whatever the other side might look like? As we move through this presentation, keep a few things in mind. We're living in a very fluid time, and information is changing hourly. We worked on this presentation up until a few minutes ago. Not kidding. We changed some numbers because things are changing so quickly. We're trying to make sure this presentation is as up to date with current examples and realities. March has been a long year, hasn't it? You can tell this version of the story around the country, around the world. This is Jim Sprouse, the executive director of the Georgia Hotel and Lodging Association. And at the beginning of this month, just a few short weeks ago, the Georgia industry was bursting at the seams, ready for major conventions and marquee sporting events like the Final Four and the Masters. Nationally, the hotel industry estimates a loss of nearly 4 million jobs in 2020. That equals $180 billion in lost wages. That's according to the American Hotel and Lodging Association. And this is where we are now. This map is from the New York Times, updated around 6 a.m. this morning. As of this morning, there were more than 68,000 people in the United States who had tested positive for coronavirus, COVID-19. And they're in every state and every U.S. territory. Also this morning, and this number was literally updated a few minutes ago, more than 3.3 million people filed unemployment claims in the United States last week, a record amount. Our world is very different right now. It's sobering, isn't it? So what do we do? We're going to walk through these in more detail, but it's helpful to remember now what you control and what you don't. Start with the CEO. Reinforce people first. Remember that details matter. Be transparent. Focus on the greater good, and be nimble. Strategic communication starts at the top. It'll be the CEOs of the world who set the tone, protect the cultures, and reassure stakeholders ranging from employees to stockholders about a company's approach to our new reality and the company's priorities in it. This is A&B Group CEO Steve Cannon. That's the management company that operates all of the businesses under the Blank family of business, those owned by Home Depot founder Arthur Blank. Those businesses include the Atlanta Falcons and the Atlanta United, Atlanta's Major League Soccer team. And Arthur Blank has pledged to continue paying hourly employees who work for each of the businesses he owns. Critical communication starts at the top, and critical communication goes far beyond the words said and written. It's behaviors too. The CEO is going to need to set the tone, address the rumors and gossip quickly and directly, and she's going to need to resist her inner theory X and be theory Y. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. This is an example of behavior, using behavior to communicate and set the tone of a company's response to COVID-19. Delta's CEO, Ed Bastian, cut his salary by 100% for the next 6 months, and so did the airline's board of directors. Others in the 100% club include Alaska Air CEO Brad Tilden and Marriott CEO Arne Sorensen. Lyft co-founders are another example. John Zimmerman and Logan Green pledged to donate their salaries to charity through June. Dartmouth College is an example of how to address rumors and gossip quickly and directly. The Ivy League school, located in Hanover, New Hampshire, has formed a high-level task force to plan for and manage possible disruptions related to COVID-19. Key responsibilities of the task force include monitoring federal and state recommendations, implementing guidance, and communicating with everyone in the Dartmouth community. So if you choose to do a task force, what does a task force do? It holds timely, regular meetings, likely daily at this point, certainly several times a week. It establishes itself as a central place for information. Communication should be thorough, frequent, and timely. It's important not to hold back communication for additional information. Things are changing quickly. We'd always be waiting if we were doing that. You should communicate frequently and update as needed with new information. And tell the backstory on decisions. That's very important. Where there's a void of information, people will fill it with what they think is true. And often that's not the case at all, and rarely is that helpful. Whatever the decision your business is making, share the thought process on how and why that decision was reached. The more people understand, the more accepting they may be about a decision. You can't be a theory X person in a theory Y world. That's classic MBA speak to describe managers who impose top-down authority and command and control styles. That's theory X. And then there's those who create a world that empowers and trusts individuals to do the right thing. That's theory Y. And especially with the explosion of remote workers, you can't communicate a message focused on distrust. The idea of, if I can't see you, you must not be working. So don't be Charter Communications. It's one of the largest phone and internet providers in the United States. And while this might have changed in the past few days, Charter faced some significant backlash online. An employee emailed a request to work from home once a pandemic was declared, and the result was he was fired. At that time, Charter was largely alone in mandating employees to work from its offices, and its rivals were pushing ahead with advising staff to work from home wherever possible. For example, AT&T asked its employees who are in jobs that can be done from home to do so. Verizon did it, and Comcast did too. Reinforce people first. This is PR 101, and it's even more important now. People come first, and your communication needs to emphasize that. Here's some examples of some people first PR. Starbucks has extended its mental health benefits. In partnership with Lyra Health, Starbucks is offering its employees, which it calls partners, personalized confidential mental health care. That includes 20 free in-person or video sessions every year for the partners and each of their eligible family members, online scheduling, and access to a network of mental health therapists and coaches. Amazon is making a number of people-first moves, including unlimited paid sick leave for employees who test positive for COVID-19. National grocery chain Kroger is among those paying every hourly frontline grocery, supply chain, manufacturing, and customer service associate a one-time bonus. This one-time bonus for part-time employees is $150, and full-time staffers earn a bonus of $300. CVS, Walmart, Target, and Walgreens are also paying bonuses to workers. Many such stores, including Publix, are installing sneeze guards at cash registers too, plastic screens between the cashier and the customer. You really can't provide too much detail about what your company is doing and why. Your employees want to know, and your customers want to know. Details provide the context for understanding and the context that can lead to buy-in. We're all getting tons of emails from every company we interacted with, it seems like. Every place we shopped or every place we stayed, they're sending us an email to tell us some things. Well, I'm the person that's actually reading all of those emails. And in some cases, we're helping our clients write those emails too. Here's a couple examples of detail first. This is the Park on Main Hotel in Highlands, North Carolina. It's a boutique hotel up there. And while it's now closed because of a proclamation from the town's mayor, last week it sent an email to its patrons with the very detailed information about how it was responding to the coronavirus crisis. Specifics included details about how ink pens were sanitized after you checked in at the registration desk, how credit card machines would be turned towards the customer so that nobody but you touched your credit card, and the fact that all books and magazines would be removed from the lobby and guest rooms because they can't be sufficiently sanitized. This week, Delta sent an email focused on the details of how a plane is cleaned in a coronavirus world. Changes include removing non-essential items from the seat back pockets, including Sky Magazine, and the use of an EPA-registered disinfectant to clean all of the aircraft and fogging many of the flights with the same disinfectant. We can't stress enough how important sharing appropriate information is, especially in today's new reality. And sometimes history gives us the best lesson there. Johnson & Johnson's handling of the Tylenol crisis is still today considered the model for transparency and crisis communications. The company has long been known for its commitment to do the right thing, and that was a driving factor in its crisis response. Earlier this month, Dartmouth professor Paul Argnetti referenced this crisis in an article in the Harvard Business Review. In 1982, 7 people died after taking extra-strength Tylenol, at the time the best-selling painkiller in the market. Capsules had been injected with cyanide by someone who has never been identified. The company recalled more than 30 million bottles of Tylenol and created new tamper-proof packaging. Johnson & Johnson established a set of best practices for communicating in a crisis, including speaking early and often, and directly with consumers. It issued a national alert telling people to stop consuming its Tylenol products. It established a toll-free number for consumers to call with questions or concerns. It held regular press conferences from company headquarters. Johnson & Johnson's leadership, particularly that by Chairman James Burke, took extraordinary steps to communicate with customers and to get it right. Many credit Burke's transparency and calm demeanor with stopping the crisis from growing and allowing the company to regain nearly 95% of market share within a few months and ultimately enhancing the company's reputation. It feels good to give, and greater good equals good PR. We could all use a little Mr. Rogers these days, right? Look for the helpers. You'll always find people helping. Part of greater good equals good PR is being the helper. Here's some examples of companies that are doing that. U-Haul offers services to college students across the country through its College Boxes program. Nearly every college and university has now moved to online learning for the rest of the year, and dorms have to be emptied out in March, months earlier than most expected. U-Haul charges a flat rate to college students for storage units May through August, and the company is allowing students to store immediately at no additional cost. This is Sweet Green. Founded in 2007, Sweet Green is a casual restaurant that features healthy dining options. It has locations in California's Bay Area, Chicago, Philadelphia, Boston, New York, Houston, and the DC area. These days, the company is delivering free meals to those working in hospitals in the areas that it serves. Be nimble. What worked for your company a week ago, certainly a month ago, may not be the best option right now. Smart companies are quickly adapting to our new normal in order to serve customers and to survive. We're all getting familiar with curbside pickup, and this Woodstock, Georgia independent bookstore was one of the first out of the gate a few weeks ago. In early March, which seems like forever ago, the Cozy Community Bookstore sent a plea to its supporters to change with it and help it survive. You can now call and order a book, and an associate will bring it to your car when you drive up. It will also ship books to you for $1. And now Foxtail is rapidly upgrading its systems to become a more sophisticated online retailer. This is Gusto, and it is a Atlanta fast casual chain, and they took a page right out of a wartime playbook. The chain began selling bonds online last week. Customers can spend $100 to receive $150 in restaurant value that they can redeem no earlier than July 1st. Or they can spend $200 to get a $350 value and not redeem it before September 1st. The bonds, which can be used at any of the chain's 5 locations, have no expiration date. And Gusto's has already raised more than $20,000 in bond sales. So circling back to the hotel industry, in California, officials are working to make hotel rooms available to homeless residents, healthcare workers, and first responders who have nowhere to isolate during the coronavirus pandemic. County officials are leading the negotiations, and state leaders are helping too. Earlier this week, nearly 4,000 rooms had been secured, and the focus is on California's seven largest counties: Los Angeles, Sacramento, San Francisco, San Diego, Santa Clara, Orange, and Alameda. So that's a lot to absorb. So now let's turn to some steps that you can do at your own company nearly immediately. Establish your crisis communications team. Follow the lead of Dartmouth College and get started now. It'll be the CEO and other executives and others throughout the company, supplemented by others on the outside who provide expertise that you don't have on your team. It's this team's responsibility to provide timely, transparent, vital information to your employees, customers, and community. Get moving on talking points. Our world calls this message discipline. Once you decide on what your company is doing, everyone needs to talk about it in a similar way. your executive team, supervisors, sales team, your HR department, your customer service representatives. Determine what questions they are likely to be asked and establish the talking points so that everyone is getting the same information and emphasis. You need talking points to help guide the conversations that your leadership team is having with customers and employees. They should also be provided to any of your employees who interact with the public, such as your sales and customer service teams. You'll find talking points helpful in guiding social media responses too. Base your responses and communications on official protocol. This is not a time to wing it. Your company's credibility is tied to how you respond and communicate. So everything from how you handle sick days to how an employee who tests positive for COVID-19 returns to work matters. Your guidance on decisions and communication should be the most official possible. The CDC, local and state proclamations, US legislation. In many cases, your own HR policies will be your resource, although many companies may adjust those now. Amazon creating a separate pool of sick days for a coronavirus illness is an example of that. This overused quote attributed to Wayne Gretzky feels especially appropriate today. While it seems overwhelming to just get through the day-to-day, it's important to look ahead. What will your customers need a month from now? What will your business need? How do you market and communicate new offerings and changes in an appropriate way? Just like the small business Foxtail Bookshop, who weeks ago prided itself on its community foot traffic and now is establishing online services, today is the day to think about tomorrow. So let's close with a few questions. These are the questions, we put together some questions from our team that have come up in our world, things that we're talking about and things that our clients are talking about. Now we are answering them from a public relations perspective. Clearly, business decisions will vary with each of your companies. What if my client wants to suspend services? The closer you can get to an agreement that works for the customer, the better in the long run for your company's reputation. Your answer to this question may be informed by assistance available to you in the economic recovery legislation passed by the Senate late last night. In many cases, deferred payments may send the right message. It's a practice embraced today by organizations ranging from the Atlanta Falcons, who are deferring season ticket payments, to a home services company that is working case by case with companies that have shuttered their business temporarily because of the coronavirus crisis. How much do my clients need to know about my workplace? Again, transparency is critical. You want your clients to know that you have protocols in place. You want them to know what you're doing to provide safety for your employees, and you want them to be assured that you're complying with all local and federal requirements and recommendations. Highlands Park on Main Hotel is a good example of how to spell it all out so your customers feel confident in your company. How much should I share with my employees? Again, as much as you can, especially the backstory. People forget about the backstory, and the backstory is so important to help people understand how and why decisions were made. And again, it's that information void. If there is no information, if there's an information void, people will fill it, and that's not helpful. So we would love to continue the conversation. This is our executive team in more casual days. Actually, we're working at home. We're pretty casual these days too. We're happy to send you a copy of this presentation. We're happy to get on the phone, answer questions. We're happy to help any way you need. You can find us in all the usual places. Our website is there. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, and we are happy to continue the conversation. So Trace, back to you.
Well, Cindy, thank you so much for that. It was interesting to be able to see what the larger companies are doing, and we can definitely take some advice from what's worked for them. I will open it up for just a few questions. If you want to put that into the question and answer box that's in the webinar. Uh, First question that I want to ask Cindy is, can you give us an example of a good talking point, considering that most of the companies that are on here today are considered essential personnel? What should we be conveying to our customers?
I would think that your customers would very much want to know how you are taking care of yourselves and your employees so that they are assured that when you come into their businesses or connect to their businesses, that you are following all the right protocols to keep yourself safe.
Another question that came in was, you said share the backstory with making decisions. Is there ever a time when there's too much backstory and you would not want to share?
Yes, there is. I think that you have to gauge that on a case to case basis. But as much as you can share that helps people understand. I mean, if you just say, this is what we're doing, and people go, why are we doing that? Then you need to give more information, because people will say, you want people to understand, you want them to buy in. So you want to share. If there's any lawyers on this group, the lawyers will always tell you to be very careful. And we're also very much appreciative of having in very delicate situations and high stakes situations to have talking points lawyered and have sharing lawyered so that you are doing all the right things within all of the lanes that you have to stay in. But I'm certainly not saying dump it all out. I am saying give as much as you can to help people understand the context of the decision that you made.
Well, thank you for that. Well, folks, I appreciate you joining us. We're going to try to bring you more topics each Thursday at 1, and we're actually looking at bringing some more even more often, since this is such a changing climate that we're in. And we're trying to get you some good proactive things that you can work on to effectively navigate through this uncertainty. As far as the mastermind members, you all should have received a special Zoom room. So once we convene here, we're going to, all the mastermind members go on the chat room where we can personally ask Cindy our own questions. And Cindy, I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing all this great information with us.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.